Hansel and Gretel, Part Hansel and Gretel, Part 1. Hansel and Gretel were a young brother and sister who lived with their father and stepmother in a small house near a big dark forest. Their father worked as a woodcutter. Every day he went into the forest to cut trees and bring home wood. He worked very hard, but the family was still very poor. They often had only a little bread to eat, and sometimes they had almost no food at all. Life was difficult, and the children were often hungry. The stepmother was not a kind woman. She became angry very easily, especially when there was not enough food on the table. She did not love Hansel and Gretel, and she did not try to hide it. The children felt scared of her, but they tried to stay quiet and not make her upset. One night, Hansel and Gretel could not sleep because they were so hungry. They lay in their small bed and listened to the sounds in the house. Suddenly, they heard their stepmother talking to their father in a loud, angry voice. She said, "We have no food left. We cannot feed the children anymore. Tomorrow we will take them deep into the forest and leave them there. Then we will have enough food for ourselves." The father was shocked and very sad. He loved his children and did not want to leave them alone in the forest. He said, "No, I cannot do that. They are my children." But the stepmother did not listen. She insisted again and again until the father finally agreed. Even though his heart was heavy and full of pain. Hansel and Gretel heard everything. Gretel began to cry quietly, but Hansel tried to be brave. He whispered, "Don't worry, Gretel. I have an idea. I will help us." When everyone was asleep, Hansel got out of bed and went outside. The moon was bright, and he could see the ground clearly. He found many small white stones and filled his pockets with them. Then he went back to bed and fell asleep next to his sister. The next morning, the stepmother woke the children early. She gave them a small piece of bread and said they were going for a walk in the forest. Hansel knew what was really happening, but he stayed calm. As they walked deeper and deeper into the forest, Hansel secretly dropped the white stones one by one behind him. The stones made a small path on the ground. After a long walk, they reached a clearing. The stepmother told the children to sit and wait. She said, "We will come back soon." But Hansel and Gretel knew she was lying. The parents walked away, and soon the children were alone. They waited for a long time, but nobody came back. When the moon rose, the white stones began to shine in the moonlight. Hansel said, "Look, Gretel, we can follow the stones home." The children walked along the shining path, step by step, until they finally reached their house. Their father was surprised and happy to see them, but the stepmother was angry. A few days later, the stepmother said again, "We must take the children into the forest. This time, we must go deeper." Hansel wanted to collect more stones, but the stepmother locked the door so he could not go outside. He had to think fast. Instead of stones, he put small pieces of bread in his pocket. The next morning, they walked into the forest again. Hansel dropped the breadcrumbs behind him, hoping they would help him find the way home. But this time, things did not go as planned. If you like this story, please click like. It helps me a lot. And if you want more easy English stories, you can subscribe. Thank you for learning with me. Hansel and Gretel. Part 2. Hansel and Gretel walked deeper into the forest with their stepmother and father. Hansel tried to stay brave, but he felt worried. He kept dropping the small bread pieces behind him, hoping they would help him later. The forest was darker this time, and the trees were tall and close together. The children could not see the sky very well, and the air felt cold. After a long walk, the stepmother told them again to sit and wait. She said, "We will come back soon." But Hansel and Gretel already knew she was lying. The parents left, and the children were alone once more. They waited for a long time, hoping their father would return. But he never did. When the moon finally rose, Hansel said, "Let's follow the breadcrumbs." But when they looked at the ground, they saw nothing. All the crumbs were gone. Birds had eaten every piece. Gretel began to cry, and Hansel felt sad too. But he tried to stay strong for his sister. "Don't worry," he said softly. "We will find a way home. We just need to keep walking." The children walked for many hours. The forest seemed endless. They were tired, hungry, and scared. Sometimes they heard strange sounds, rustling leaves, hooting owls, and snapping branches. They held each other's hands tightly. On the second day, they found some berries and ate them. But it was not enough. Their legs felt weak, and they wanted to rest, but they knew they had to keep moving. On the third day, something surprising happened. As they walked, they suddenly smelled something sweet, like sugar and warm cookies. Gretel lifted her head and said, "Hansel, do you smell that?" Hansel nodded. They followed the smell until they reached a small clearing. There, in the middle of the forest, stood a strange little house. The house looked magical. The walls were made of gingerbread. The windows were made of clear sugar. The roof smelled like chocolate, and the door looked like it was made of candy. Hansel and Gretel could hardly believe their eyes. They were so hungry that they ran to the house and began to eat small pieces. Hansel broke off a piece of the roof, and Gretel tasted a piece of the window. It was delicious. Suddenly the door opened. An old woman came out. She looked weak and bent, but she smiled kindly. "Oh, poor children," she said. "You must be hungry. Come inside. I have warm food and a soft bed for you." Hansel and Gretel felt relieved. They followed her inside, thinking they were safe at last. But the old woman was not kind at all. She was a witch who lived alone in the forest. She had built the candy house to trick children. When Hansel and Gretel entered, she closed the door behind them. The next morning, she grabbed Hansel and locked him in a small cage. "You will stay here," she said. "I will feed you until you are fat. Then I will eat you." Gretel was shocked and terrified. The witch forced Gretel to cook food for Hansel every day. She shouted at her and made her work hard. Hansel tried to stay brave. When the witch asked him to show his finger so she could check if he was getting fat, Hansel used a small bone he found in the cage. The witch had weak eyes, so she thought he was still too thin. Days passed, and the witch grew impatient. "I will eat him today," she said angrily. She told Gretel to heat the oven. Gretel knew the witch wanted to push her inside. The witch opened the oven door and bent down to look inside. At that moment, Gretel gathered all her courage. She pushed the witch into the oven and quickly closed the door. The witch screamed, but Gretel did not open it. Soon, everything was quiet. Gretel ran to free Hansel. They hugged each other tightly. Then they searched the house and found a big box full of gold and jewels. Hansel said, "We will take this home. Father will be happy." They filled their pockets and left the house. The forest seemed less dark now. After walking for a long time, they finally saw their home. Their father ran to them with tears in his eyes. He had missed them very much. The stepmother was gone, and the family was together again. With the gold and jewels, they had enough money to live safely and happily for the rest of their lives. If you like this story, please click like. It helps me a lot. And if you want more easy English stories, you can subscribe. Thank you for learning with me.